Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. This is my last day off, and I looking back on my past few days and looking at what I've accomplished. Look at that little bit of insight that I might have now that I didn't have 2 or 3 days ago. You know, I love learning. It's amazing. This is almost like university for me. I never had that opportunity to go to an university. It wasn't even a thought, it wasn't even a consideration, it wasn't a possibility. I didn't think for myself. And what you think about is realized, and that's coming across my path like crazy this week, right? That's exactly what happened. You know, what we put our mind to in our lives, we get more of that. And it might not look exactly right, that which we're thinking about, but that's to trick us, right? That's to make it so that, oh my goodness, it looks like this, so it can't possibly be. And so we don't pay it any mind, and because it's around all the time, we don't question it. We don't question it at all. And then the next thing you know, right, your life is going to hell and breaking apart and heartbreaks and betrayals, and you look at that and you go, why didn't I see that? Right? There are times to be a student. I think this time that we're living in right now, in this digital age, it is the most perfect time to be a student any at at any age. You guys, I couldn't have imagined the way I was 6 years ago, and 6 years later to this moment where I would be exactly where I was at. Right? There wouldn't have been any movement at all. There wouldn't have been any opportunity to better my life or better epigenetically, right? Being that example for others. How amazing would that be to put my life back together, to get on top of some of those issues? And I have. And even though it might not be evident for you being the spectator in my life, right? For me, being the participant and the spectator, I have to be that spectator. I have to be that judge. I have to be that feeler. I have to be that guardian, right? I have to be it all for myself. I take I take in a lot of information. And when that information is absorbed into my system as something that's believable to me, that becomes a part of me. And that's where we're leading in to this word that we got this week. We got this word presence. And so I've been spending a little bit of time in some of those high school memories, some of those high school experiences that I had. We talked yesterday about this teacher that I had that took a special interest in me, right? But this presence that I have now is not just born out of that kind teacher who took an interest in me. It was born out of those groups and those small networks that I was able to, I don't know, sometimes weasel my way in there, sometimes by a little bit of name throwing, right? Having pretty sisters that could get me in, that I could tag along into some of these groups and be able to seep into them a little bit, that possibly people would actually have an opportunity to get to know me and I'd be able to make a few friends along the way. It was in some of my job choices, and I was in hospitality for a big part of my working career. I'm still in hospitality. Customer service is a huge part of hospitality. It's in getting to know your customer, getting to know their needs, getting to know their wants, their styles, right? Their desires. I'm really great at sales, right? But I don't like it. It's a little bit, I'm good at it, right? And out of necessity, I have had to sell myself, right? To toot my own horn, right? To shine or over exert that attention that might have and easily could have or should have possibly gone to somebody else, but out of that need to be seen and need to be heard. And we talked yesterday, I wasn't that one who wanted to be seen, who wanted to be heard. But somehow, in needing to prove myself or get myself out of a sticky situation or avoid a mishap, I have had to come to the table that way, right? But I didn't like it. It wasn't right. And I hang with the entrepreneurs, but sales is not my thing, right? I like influencing. I do like influencing, but influencing towards, right, that goodness, that little bit of give back, that little bit of service, that little bit of burning karma, right? That little bit of movement for myself. And again, some of these baselines of values and mission statements that I put together for myself that I move along, right, in my life by kindnesses and my own steam. My own problem is, right, I don't I don't look at the intent of kindnesses. I never have up until recently. I've just, right, out of desperation, taken in those kindnesses, out of having my heart go out and say, oh my goodness, nobody else would do that for me. You're so kind. You're so amazing. You are to me now, right? Not recognizing that possibly there were expectations in that, or a little bit of steering in different directions, or even just being a little bit of comfort to somebody in their own comfort. Don't stray away too far along. Presence is that steadfast, grounded person that we can look out to or search out to those questions, right? And we look at that person, we go, yeah, right? But then you look out into the world and you see people with presence, right? Donald Trump, you can't deny it. He's got some crazy presence. He stands on a stage and he spews. Everybody's stopping. Everybody's looking, right? Everybody's listening. But there are other kinds, right? You know, this amazing word that we have in this word presence. It's the people that we surround ourselves with, not just the people we surround ourselves with, but the many different people that we surround ourselves with, because it offers up different experiences, different perspectives, different ideas that possibly we never have thought of before, right? But it fits better with us. It's more digestible. It's more believable. It hits home. We feel it to be a truth. It's now a knowing, right? Presence, when it comes onto the stage or walks into the room like uh, I watched this Nils and Bianca. They're swing dancers and they're top competitors in their fields, and I think now their teachers also, because they've hit that ceiling and possibly of getting any better at what they do. But when they walk into a room, a hush will just go over, and everybody will just be immersed, right, in what they're bringing to the table. And that's dancing. Again, it could be President Trump up on a podium. It could be your pastor in your church up at his podium, right? It could be that person walking down the sidewalk so scared because they see the school bully sitting and surrounding another child, right? And he can't bring himself, right? He charges right into that group, and he breaks it up in the benefit of somebody else. He's overcome himself, right? And he's drummed up that presence. He possibly might have shook everybody to the core, like, right? That nerdy, four-eyed, skinny, right? He did that. He had the nerve to do that. And yet the jock of the school wouldn't have even considered it, right? Elon Musk, presence. If he walked into a room, everything would go just like that. And he would start talking his thing and doing his thing. And that magnificent would shine through. But that presence comes from somewhere else because, right, if you listen to Elon Musk, he's a super smart guy and he gets right to the meat of it. But he's not a great speaker. He gets better, right? One speech, one interview after the next. We all do. It's in that practicing that we always get better. But it's not his natural forte. And yet, he's got this most incredible presence, right? Because he's so smart, right? He makes things happen. He's right there at the beginning stages, the first thoughts and the conceiving part of it, of innovation, right? You know this guy is going to take us places. That's presence, right? But then there's other kinds of presence, right? The Ayatollah Khomeini. It's been so long now. Isn't that amazing? Right? That was a scary on your seat kind of time. And we forget about these things and we think this is the worst of times. But if you go backwards, you don't even have to go that far backwards. And you can remember another time. This is the worst of times. And there'll be more of those, right? But hopefully we will have leaders out there with presence that will help to guide us through those difficult times. Okay, I'm going like this. I wrote thoughts down today in the course of the other things that I was doing. Right? But presence, it comes from that courage and that bravery and that confidence that we naturally build up in our interactions. And we're not talking small groups, right? It could be smaller groups, it could be 5 or 6 people, but you're practicing, you're sitting there with your buddies and you're having your say, you're being seen, right? You're being heard. You're in the mix of it. You're being a participant in that. You're not standing off in the corner. You're not the wallflower, right? Remember when I said when I was in high school, I was 300. Well, I wasn't 311 pounds in high school. I was in my 200s. And for a girl, that's kind of life beating, right? In that transition of our puberty into, right, adolescence and adulthood, right? And yeah, I got influenced into that. And I didn't want to be seen and I didn't want to be heard. But as an obese person, this is right. This is in my experience where I learned to stand my ground because we all have handicaps. We all have disabilities. Some of them are seen, some aren't, right? Sometimes we can put on a new outfit, put on some makeup. Sometimes we can practice in our speech therapy. We can put on those airs, right? But you can't fake presence. You just can't because the evidence has to be in the president, in that president presence. You know what I mean? That truth, that that being that example, because that's what draws our attention. That's what makes us stop in our track to, what is it going to say? Right? It's going to be important. It's something I don't want to miss, right? Some of us have that. Some of us don't. Most of us don't, right? Because we don't want to be seen and don't want to be heard. A lot of that target audience, that audience that I want to touch, that I want to help move forward, right? Are those that fail a little bit in that, right? You're like me, fail a lot, right? But make that movement anyway, right? Better late than never, and never too late, right? Start now, start where you are, right? You're still going to be here tomorrow. We were talking about that yesterday, right? You're still going to be here tomorrow. Between now and tomorrow, what can you do, right? To make it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more stressful. There's lots of things that I do, right? To help keep that stress off of me so that I can do what I need to do, right? That I can make that movement so I can be a little bit of help for myself and help for others. Possibly in that experience of, right, consistently doing it, picking well in the lessons, picking well in what I take on as my own, right? And if not as my own, right? Because lots of stuff that I have that I'm taking along with me, I'm not sure if I necessarily believe in them, but I see the evidence that they work. And if I stumble along in a conversation and meet up with a character that's in need of a little bit of guidance in that, I've seen the evidence. I've seen that it worked. And even if it's not my cup of tea, if it's not something that I believe in wholeheartedly for myself, because I see the evidence, I know it works, maybe that's a tool for somebody else in that conversation when we cross paths to be able to pass that along. It is in that passing along. It is in those meetups. It is in those small conversations that we have, those commonalities that we pick up along the way, right? That little bit of interest that we take in somebody, that somewheres along the line we're going to meet somebody similar, maybe not the same. But now we have enough to get ourselves into that conversation at the very least and possibly have an opportunity, have an experience, have an adventure, make a friend, meet a husband, meet a wife, right? Have an experience that compounds that confidence in ourselves a little bit. So the next time we go off to meet somebody, we're not going to be standoffish in the corner, right? That we're going to just walk up to that group, right? And maybe surprise them and go, oh my goodness, that's Cindy. Oh my good, right? Cindy? Okay, well, let's give her a shot, right? And that's our moment to make an impact, not in a show off in a way, but in that commonality that we picked up in being able to get ourselves in that conversation at the very least, that we possibly had a moment there that we can make a connection, that we can have an opportunity for somebody to give us another 2 minutes, right? And that's more difficult for us sometimes than it is for them. Because remember, we don't always want to be seen, we don't always want to be heard, but we understand that we need to be in the mix, that we need to be able to interact with other people at the very least in those common values, right? To be able to make a connection, even if it's in have a nice day, in those small kindnesses that we can bring to the table, right? Meeting amazing souls along the way. It's just stepping forward, and I'm grateful that I've made some choices in that stepping forward that is giving me a little bit of experience to show up a little bit more grounded in myself. I walked into a room. Would I be seen? Would I be heard? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Right. Sometimes by being that rhino in the china cabinet, is that what they call it? Rhino in the china cabinet? Sometimes it's that way because now I'm more comfortable in being seen and being heard, right? It's just a good sign for me because it means that guilt and that shame, right? That uncomfortableness, that nervousness of what other people might think of me, right? It's a little bit more manageable now, right? And that's all evidence. That's all stuff that I can look back and go, yeah, right? In this moment, I might not see it, but if I look back a little ways, right? Oh my goodness, I've come a long way. This conversation, it comes to me because this morning I took in a lesson from a gentleman. His stuff came across my path in the past few days, so I guess YouTube suggested to me again. Hello, Ellen. Nice to meet you in my live tonight. I was just gonna talk about this gentleman. I had never come across his content before up until yesterday. Uh, I thought it was a good video, and as YouTube does, right? Google does. If it sees you're interested and you've watched something to the end, they will suggest something to you again. So I'm taking in my lessons today, and his title, his thumbnail was pretty good. I didn't quite remember him, right? But I knew I had watched his content and I got what he was saying. And I remember that he was real, that he was genuine. And that's what I remembered. And I guess in that moment, I was ready for a little bit of genuine. And in his thumbnail is a picture of him. He's got tattoos from his nails all the way up to his shoulders, right? His head is shaved. You could tell at one point he was a biker, not to be stereotyping anybody, but you knew he ran with some tough crews, right? I worked in bars, right? I hung with these people, and they were amazing, interesting people. I didn't let the way they looked interfere with me. It's just if, our lifestyles were different more often than not, right? My lifestyle would have been a little bit different than a biker's, though my husband, right? He wanted to be a striker for the Nomads. I don't know if he ever fulfilled that dream because we broke up shortly after divulging that he wanted to be a biker, right? So I coming home from work. I worked at Home Depot at the time, and I come home from work, and the whole backyard would be full of bikers partying, and he'd have like fire. I didn't even have a fire pit, and they'd been building big fire pits in my backyard. Yeah, I got pretty tough towards the end, but this isn't about right the end of my marriage there. But it was the interesting that that I do have a great mix of characters that have come into my life. I get along with all kinds. It's part of my mission statement. It takes all kinds to make the world, right? But this guy had only had 250 subscribers, very few subscribers. And yet, he's been doing what I've been trying and working towards doing. He's been doing this for 20, 25 years and doing it deeply, right? And he's put his whole life back together. And he had such a presence about himself, right? He was talking his truth, but his truth, as he's talking, is becoming my truth because, right, those lessons that he had taken, right? And if it wasn't for Google, if it wasn't for YouTube suggesting to him, how easily would it have been for me not to come across his paths? He only had 250 subscribers, this gentleman, and he was so beyond where I'm at right now. Different character, right? Different, bringing it in his own fashion, doing similar work, right? Maybe the target audience might not be exactly the same, but we need that target audience, right? That movement needs to be done within that network too. And it's amazing because it brings to mind some amazing characters in my life. And you might look at them and think, oh my goodness, right? That's a tough one. But I tell you, in their networks, they are angels and they are shining all over that, right? But because we have different lives, right? Different limiting beliefs, different coping mechanisms, different work life balances, different ideas of family, religion, political ideas, we can't always move with each other. We can move a little bit in those common values, but when it comes to networks, right, those are different networks and they need their leadership, right? They need those people to stand behind the podium and catch the attention of their audience, right? And that podium can come in so many forms: the teacher's desk, the preacher's podium, political leaders' podium, somebody who's got an issue or a cause, their podium, or walking into the room like a rhino in the china cabinet. I'm just taking the podium. But that's a discussion for another day. Okay, people are interesting when we meet them with positive intent. 100% customer service. And I've been in it for the most part of my life, kind of fell into it, but I fell into it perfectly, didn't I? Because, customer service is service. So it was a good step into the door and it was a fun career. And even though I am in retail now, customer service is customer service, but I sure did love hospitality, right? I'm grateful for this job that puts the roof over my head because it allows me, right? This company allows me to be myself, to be genuine, right? And I'm a good person and I'm putting good vibes and right? And I'm practicing my craft and I'm grateful for that job that allows me to practice my craft, right? Could have been a different story without that mediator or the mediator or those go betweens. And those are those interactions that we have. And whether that's a person that's within our family, in our school systems, whether it's our friends, whether it's our teachers, whether it's these great influences in these podiums, right? To each one of us, we get to choose, right? And presence, right? We're smart. We're all smart here, right? Presence walks in the door. There's not too many people out there that can fake that, right? That's not something that you can fake, right? Walk in the door and right, it's like a pin drop. What's Joe gonna say? What's Cindy gonna say? What's Ellen or Andrew gonna say? Hello, Andrew. Hello. How's your night going tonight? We're on this conversation of presence this week. It was our powerful word, our 47th word that we picked. We're getting close to this little project of 54 powerful words. It's been a pretty interesting year in that. But I tell you, it has made a big difference in how I go about, uh, well, my everyday, day to day, because it's impacted my everyday, day to day. Each one of these words, I come in with the into the live with the word and we play with it a little bit. But after the live is over, my lessons are being suggested to me on those topics in contemplation, whether I'm washing the dishes or going for a walk or out and about with my sisters. These things are always, right, top of mind. And it's interesting that it has produced um, an effect that I wasn't expecting, but it makes perfect sense. And it is in the evidence, right? That what I'm doing in this moment with these 54 words is making a difference for me. And if it's making a difference for me, I don't know. I think that's something that we should move forward with a little bit. Sydney should get that deck of cards published. This is the company. Oh, should I show you this now? This is the company that I want to use. Is this company now? I haven't contacted them yet. I love the shape of the cards in the in the box. I love the way the box opens to get the cards. I love the quality of the board and the making of the box. And I love the square. It has a nice shuffle on it. And for the design that I want for my cards, it's perfect. And also, this company is all about positivity, right? In this card, it's called She Believes, so she did, right? She believed she could, so she did. Let this pack of 50 beautiful and inspiring affirmation cards lift you up as you go about your day. Select one, make its quotation your theme, and see what you can accomplish with that, right? So this company actually, there is a guide card with the information of the company in here, but of course I've shuffled it in there already. But in September, after I get back from my vacation, I think I'm going to contact this company and see how much it would cost me to possibly, well, let's start off with maybe 200 decks. How much will that cost me to get that done, right? So we're on it. And on top of that, I think I'm up to 5 more words that I can go in and, right, I've been staying on top of that, but when I did it, it was so fast, right? I just channeled all of those cards just like that. And yeah, I think I have about five to catch up on. And yeah, we're right on top of that, you guys. We got this word presence. We'll come into it tomorrow looking at it a little bit differently. Maybe we'll talk about the presence of somebody that I truly admire, right? Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe. Oh, I know. Oh, you guys must be getting sick of the daddy stories, but my dad had presents. Oh my good, my dad had such presents. everybody, like everybody. I'm talking bill collectors. We're talking, right? People who on the norm would just dislike my dad. Everybody loved my dad, right? My dad had presence. My dad very rarely raised his voice more than this, ever, right? I very, maybe once or twice, saw the aggression in him, what he was capable of, right? But he pulled it back together because that wasn't the person that my dad was or wanted to be, right? So he would shut it down pretty fast. But when it came to presents, we'll talk about that tomorrow, right? It's a good one because something came to my mind and I thought, yeah, that might be interesting. Okay, and tie it up with somebody else because it's just a short one, right? And then tie it up with something else when it comes to presents, right? Charisma is a talent that can be learned. And what? That's a good one for charisma, because charisma is 100% can be learned, right? It 100%. But presence, you can't fake the presence, right? Because the presence catches everybody's breath. Charisma is putting on a show, keeping you preoccupied in the fireworks and the dazzle and amaze so that you're not really catching it, right? It's the magic tricks. How often, when they're doing magic tricks, do you get to see how it's being done? That's a good analogy. I like that, Andrew. I know it wasn't the intent, but when you say charisma, that's a good, because there is a difference between charisma, right, and presence, 100%. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. I am back to the last few hours of my day off. I think I'm going to get outside for a little bit. The sun's coming down. I won't be able to stay live here for too much longer anyway, because we know what happens because that sun just streams right in. You won't even be able to see me, just a bunch of God light. Okay, you guys. One more comment here. Andrew, some people just have some kind of energy or magnetism, and when they are present. Some people might call it star quality. Now isn't that interesting? And the first person that came to mind when you said that, Donny Osmond, and my obsession with Donny Osmond when I was a teenager. Oh my goodness. Right? Donny Osmond posters all over my wall, convinced that I was going to marry that guy. Right? He had the star quality, and he still has the star quality, doesn't he? Right? Him and his sister, I think, have a Vegas show, right? That they do all the time. People still love Donny Osmond. I see him online every once in a while doing his thing. Okay, you guys, that's my good chair. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.